Hey, what's up? Welcome back to Coffee and Current Events, and today I have another mapping update for you. We're going to be diving into a basic overview of the front line, especially in the high intensity areas. And as we've seen in the current phase of the war in Ukraine, the most high intensity area that is definitely getting the most media attention and is probably the hottest when it comes to combat and actual combat operations is Bakhmut, and so that's where we'll be starting. So Russia has made what seems to be another breakthrough in Bakhmut. Just a few days ago, they were back around this line. It looks like around this line right here. Would you see the cursor going through? This is about what Russia's line looked like a couple days ago. And now they've broken through. They've literally, it looks like, divided part of Bakhmut. As you can see, this area in the gray zone, if any Ukrainian forces are there, they are near encirclement because the Russian forces have broken through. Also, the Russian forces broke through here. I mean, the Ukrainian battle for Bakhmut is pretty much over simply because the Russians have broken through to the point to where unless Ukraine launches a massive counteroffensive, undoing these Russian gains is going to be practically impossible, especially considering the Russians are not only pushing in Bakhmut, they're also pushing on the flanks. As we've said before, this is classic Soviet deep battle doctrine. This is what it looks like the Russians are practicing here. And basically the concept is you attack all over the front line. You probe everywhere you can with a small percentage of your force while keeping the large percentage of your force in reserves. Once you find one enemy weak spot that breaks, you then rush your reserves in there and exploit the line. And that's why I think it seems like Wagner has made sudden gains in different areas. Just a few days ago, Wagner was focusing on the Horomove Road, trying to cut the Horomove Road. And it went in a seesaw kind of battle to where the Russians allegedly took it, they cut the road, and then the Ukrainians counterattacked, recaptured it, and now it's kind of a blur about exactly what's going on. And this seems as if the classic Soviet deep battle doctrine, as I just said, because Wagner's been attacking all on the Bakhmut front line. So they know which spots are getting weaker. So a couple days ago, as I said before, it looks like they shifted their assault to Horomove. And then Horomove kind of seemed to, the assault on Horomove, the Wagner assault, seemed to kind of peter out simply because the Ukrainians kept counterattacking in that region. So what do we know? Wagner makes big gains in the actual city of Bakhmut. As I said, I think this is classic Soviet deep battle doctrine. You probe the entire enemy line, and once one side breaks, you rush in there. And the Ukrainian forces in Bakhmut are simply not large enough in number to actually hold off Russian assaults on Horomove, Ivanivske, and the actual city of Bakhmut. I think Ukraine will lose Bakhmut within the next week and a half. I mean, there's really no hope they have of actually stopping the Russian advance. What's happened now is the Russian advance has become almost unstoppable for the Ukrainians. And before, when the Russians were advancing in Bakhmut, they were making very incremental, slow, grinding gains. And now it looks as if Wagner's advances have totally sped up, and now they're making just breakthrough after breakthrough after breakthrough. This battle has been going on for almost 9 months, and people just ask why the battle lasted so long. I think the reason why is quite simple. If Bakhmut falls to Russia, this is going to be bad news for Ukraine because of the fact that this will open the door for Russian forces to press on to Kramatorsk and Slavyansk. And many people don't really seem to notice that, but if you actually look at the distance between Bakhmut and Kramatorsk, you'll see what I'm saying. If we put a marker on Kramatorsk right here, and then we put a marker on Bakhmut, central Bakhmut is pretty much only 32 kilometers away from Kramatorsk, and that is bad news for the Ukrainians because Kramatorsk is the modern Ukrainian capital of the Donetsk Oblast. So the Ukrainians are using Kramatorsk as their proverbial capital of Donetsk. This is central Bakhmut. When I just showed you guys central Bakhmut, if I go right here and you see this is a marker, this is central Bakhmut. I mean, this is like literally where the Russians were advancing a couple days ago. And I zoom back out and I take this all the way to Kramatorsk. I mean, this is literally only 32 kilometers. That's not far at all. And then if I extend this marker all the way to Slavyansk, you're going to see that Bakhmut's not that far from Slavyansk either. So if I extend this all the way to central Slavyansk, you'll see that central Bakhmut is literally like 40.7 kilometers away from Slavyansk, meaning the major cities in Donetsk, of Slavyansk, Kramatorsk, these Ukrainian strongholds are all within 40 kilometers reach of the Russian forces if they take Bakhmut. Bakhmut seems to be the fortress Ukraine had built to stop the Russians from advancing to these cities. And many people are fearing that if Bakhmut falls, Ukraine's line in this region could be broken, and then the Russians could speed over to Kramatorsk and Slavyansk. You have to remember, Bakhmut is like a fortress, okay? The Ukrainians built Bakhmut up for the exact purpose of resisting a Russian assault. And they did this to use Bakhmut as a sort of fortress to prevent the Russian advances further and deeper into the Donetsk Oblast. But if Bakhmut falls, their fortress falls, and then Kramatorsk and Slavyansk quickly become options for the Russian advance. And I'm talking 40 kilometers, you guys. That is not long at all for a military moving. And I fear personally that if Bakhmut collapses, the Russians will literally just speed towards Slaviansk and Kramatorsk, because I don't think there's too much stopping them. I mean, yes, the Ukrainians do technically have some kind of fortress, at least I think they have some kind of fortress near Chasiv Yar, but the Russians don't have to go through Chasiv Yar. They can literally just bypass Chasiv Yar. They can go straight towards here, launch a breakout from this area. As you can see, north of Horomove is a town of Dubo-Vasilika. They can literally launch a breakout from here, move into Novomakarove right here, and then just continue grinding. And well, they're at Kramatorsk, and then they're at Slaviansk. And this is just going to create massive problems for the Ukrainians.